G'day there guys, it's Connie here once again from Marky Industries. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. Anyway, we're reading some more stories from Reddit today, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty folks, this one was posted on True Off My Chest. It was written by user LoveCats86, and it's titled, My husband is cheating on me with our best friend. I recently found out that my husband, 42, is cheating on me with our married best friend, 32. She is the godmother to our 4 children. They don't know that I know, but I caught them making out at the end of our driveway when he was seeing her off after dinner with our family. We live in a small acreage and the driveway is a long way off from the main house. She had forgotten some crockery at the house and I decided to walk it over, because for some reason the two of them always took a while to say goodbye. Now I know why. That's when I saw them lit by her car's headlights, making out in the front seat with our best friend straddling my husband. In shock, I didn't know whether to throw her Pyrex at the car or just walk away. I decided the latter and was too shocked to cry or be angry. When my husband got back, I had to pretend like everything was normal. I know that it's stupid, but I couldn't sleep that night and decided to go through his phone. She was obviously under a pseudonym, but I found a handful of their messages dating 2 or 3 years. Her husband doesn't know. He's currently posted overseas as a diplomat. I'm sick with rage and betrayal. I'm lost and have no idea what steps to take next. Geez, imagine seeing that in your driveway and then having to pretend like everything's normal. God, that must have been hard. Let's go to the comments. Lawyer, collect proof, put your ducks in a row, and plan your exit. I'm very impressed you pretended you hadn't seen anything. I wouldn't have been able to. You need to book appointments with a divorce attorney so they can explain to you what your options are. You should document the cheating because that can help for the divorce. Can you take a video of you scrolling the discussion thread messages? I know there's a lot of justified rage in you, but you have to stay rational and clear through that process. Lead with your head, not your gut. Stay cool and destroy his sorry ass with the law, and then tell your best friend's husband who he is really married to. I'd want to know that my spouse is a POS so I can get out instead of staying married. From human being to human being, I'm sorry this happened to you. Good luck. Collect all the evidence you can, even if it takes months. Continue to treat him well and fly under the radar. Privately meet with a lawyer. After you have adequate evidence, send a copy of all the information to her husband just before handing your husband the divorce papers. You can also forward this information in an email to all his friends and family. Leave and never look back. Co-parent for your kids, but cut him out of your life and find yourself. Forget that horrible friend, too. Collect proof before you blow your lid. It'll give you options. Opie replies, I want to know too if her husband has any suspicions without telling him. There are a lot of messages exchanged between them. Pictures have been deleted, but I'm assuming they were nudes. My husband tried to bury their conversation in archives, but I found it, and there's enough there for me to be able to screenshot when I have another chance. He's conveniently got a work trip on Friday. I'll ask my now ex-best friend if she's available. If she's not, I think I might know why, but need hard proof. I'm so sorry, OP, and that's double betrayal. If divorce is an option for you, then collect the proof and get a lawyer. If not, still collect the proof and confront them when you feel ready. Virtual hug. Yeah, seems everyone's on the same page with what OP should do here. Okay, she makes an update. Whoa, didn't expect this much support. It's really overwhelming. Just to clarify a few things, this is a private account I created just for this post from my usual account because I was scared it would be traced back to me. I want to remain anonymous as much as I can. I don't live in the US, but in Australia, technically I can't file for divorce immediately as you need to be separated for 1 year and 1 day to file officially. My now ex-best friend just recently returned to the country. Her father has cancer. After being posted with her husband overseas, the dinner was to welcome her home, and what a welcome. There's some comments here about the headlights illuminating them. Sorry, I meant overhead lights. As to what I'm going to do now, a part of me just wants to confront my husband and see what lame excuse he has, but I need to get away from him. This level of betrayal physically hurts. I can't help but think of all the times we spent together over the years, and for how long our families were fooled. My mind is going crazy. When she was single and he would rescue her from some bad date, or the times they were alone in my house when the kids and I were out. how irrationally angry he was when he found out she had a boyfriend, then chose to marry him. Thinking back on it, the two of them disappeared at her wedding. When I asked him where he was, he said he needed to reassure her that she'd done the right thing. I feel so sick thinking of these things. Opie updates again. Thank you everyone for your concern and advice. As of tomorrow, my husband is out of town. I've tried really hard to act normal around my now ex-best friend, but it's proving difficult and I feel sick. I've been telling both of them that I'm caught some terrible bug and just not feeling myself. While my husband is out of town for the next few days, my sister-in-law, who is the only other person who knows, my brother's wife, will help me pack important documents and store them somewhere my husband doesn't know about. I've organised for my kids to stay with them for a week while I sort my crap out. I've spoken to a family lawyer and they've told me that the best way to start the separation procedure is to no longer be living under the same roof. I'm fortunate in that most of our assets are also in my name, and the land our house is on was gifted to us by my parents. I'm planning to kick him out after his trip, but before that, I want to catch them both in the act again, have some hard proof, send it to the ex-friend's husband and get the ball rolling for moving on with my life. I'll update with what happens after the confrontation. Oh, let's go straight to that update, see what happens. My husband came home 2 nights ago from his trip. While he was gone, I had organised a lot of the important documents, example, financials, birth certificates, passports, anything that he could potentially use to try and get more than what he deserves. They are now safely stored, and my kids have been staying with their aunt and uncle for the past few days. I had packed all my husband's things, and he's been really good at keeping his tracks clean because there was no evidence of his affair within his stuff. I placed all his belongings in the garage, ready for the confrontation with him. I was super nervous because I wasn't sure if I was making the right decision. Once he came home and I remembered seeing him kissing our best friend, I remembered the deep hurt they had caused. I was in our kitchen when he came home, and he knew straight away something was wrong. During that week I'd been distant and had barely answered his texts and screened his calls. I did answer every now and again and gave the kids a chance to speak to their dad. He asked me why I hadn't been responding to his texts, and he tried to kiss me, but I turned away, and before I knew it, the first things that came out of my mouth were, "I want a separation." I have to admit that he didn't look very surprised when I said it. He nodded his head and said, "What do you know?" Which was just a punch in the gut, because I wanted him to deny it, or say something like it was a one-off thing. I asked him to tell me everything, like when did it start? And he said they started about 10 years ago. At first, it was flirtatious messaging and a sneaky kiss in the office when they briefly worked together, and the affair was on and off. She apparently always felt guilty, and her way out of that was to marry the next man that was interested in her and proposed. He admitted that they had sex on her wedding day, and when he's out of town, they meet. At this point, I couldn't breathe, and I was sobbing. I hated that the next words out of my mouth was, "Did you even ever love me?" He hesitated and said yes, of course, but he was never in love with me the way he was with her. I cleared my throat and had said to him that he should tell her husband. There is no point hiding it anymore. I told him that all his stuff was in the garage and he can find somewhere else to stay. I let him know that I've spoken to a family lawyer, and I told him that when I feel ready, and only when I feel ready, will we see each other again and talk about the future arrangement with the kids. I said any further communication can be done through my sister-in-law or my brother. I said, he is allowed to see the kids, but only at their place. I am of course wanting full custody of the children because it hurts too much to give him anything at this point. He agreed to all my points because he knew he was in the wrong. He tried to say sorry, and then I absolutely lost my crap and screamed, "No frickin' way are you sorry. For 10 frickin' years you have both deceived everyone we know. Please take your crap and leave and tell that woman you've been banging for 10 years that I do not ever want to see her frickin' face again." Certainly not my shining moment, but also a culmination of all the hurt and anger over the last few weeks that they've caused. I have no intention of talking to my ex-best friend, or really to my soon-to-be ex-husband, until I've had the time to grieve. So thank you, community, for the encouragement and advice. Hope I can heal and move on from this. Wow, yeah, I don't blame OP for lashing out like she did. That's just such a crappy situation. At least he didn't try to deny it and fight her about it, I suppose. Silver linings. Okay, let's go to a final update, 1 year later. Thank you everyone who has been messaging over the last year to see how I'm going and asking for an update. It's been a crazy, painful year, but our divorce has been finalised, and I'm free. My ex-husband and ex-best friend, as no surprise, are now in an actual relationship after the ex-best friend's husband found out about the affair. He divorced her, and since then we've met up for coffee to check in on each other and our mental health. He's been great sending encouraging messages, and he lives overseas, and from his Facebook updates has started dating again, so I'm very happy for him. The legal and custody battles had been fairly stressful, but the ex-husband agreed to all my terms. The custody of the children was the only thing he really fought for. I have custody of the kids, and he sees them on the weekends. The kids, including myself, have all been going to therapy separately. My ex-husband wants to see them more, and during school break, the kids have a choice to stay with him or me. They've been good about it and stay with him for a week or so and then back to their mummy. Apart from necessary conversation, I steer away from my ex-husband and the ex-best friend. It still hurts so much, and I understand that it will take some time to heal. But I am letting go because I don't want them to have that level of influence over my life. I decided to sell the property we were living in and move closer to family and friends because, as you know, it takes a village, and I have been extremely grateful for the support I've received over the last year. I'm tearing up just as I'm writing this, knowing that I couldn't go through all of this without my loved ones. And for myself, I am happy overall, still a work in progress but grateful for life. The kids and myself have been enjoying life, and when we have the time and the money, try and take little trips here and there so the traumatic events of the divorce doesn't linger and can be replaced by good memories. Memories where they spend road trips and adventures with their mum. One comment says, "I'm glad that you're now moving on. Did she ever try to reach out to you after? That man is a dog. I hope they never last." Wow, it's like, why didn't he just cut things off early and settle down with her? Like, why rob you of a partner that could love you the way you deserve? I'm so sorry this happened to you, but I'm happy to read that you're doing better. Hopefully, things will get easier with time. I can't imagine co-parenting with someone like that long term. Ugh, you're truly a gem, and I'm giving you such a giant internet hug right now. Yeah, you have to wonder why people bother with an affair when they're clearly in love with someone else. Like, go be with them. Why mess around and ruin another person's life? Not just another person, but your whole family in the end. It's just so selfish. Anyway, guys, that's the end of that story. As always, I'd like to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Anyway, we're going to move on. Okay, we're jumping over to relationship advice. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "My mother's new fiancé wants me to call him Dad. He's 24. How do I navigate this?" Please buckle in because this is all so weird. I'm a 35-year-old man, and for some backstory, my dad died when I was 19, leaving my mum with me and my 2 siblings. I'm the oldest. It took some time, but eventually my mum started dating again. We don't live together per se, but our houses back onto each other and have a gate, so it's pretty common for her to offer to do my laundry, or me just go over for dinner or go look after our dog, that kind of stuff. Plus, me and my siblings go over there for dinner every other Friday night or so. A bit after she started, the men she's been dating have been getting younger and younger, and I've never had a problem with them. She's been very open to me and my siblings that she wants to get married again, and we've always been supportive. At least after the initial shocks, lol. The latest guy is by far the most serious, and they've been dating since around last June. He proposed at the start of autumn, and they want to get married next summer. Again, me and my siblings are fine with this because it's her life and we trust him. He's a nice guy and they clearly love each other. But anyway. So long and short is, this weekend her fiancé, let's call him Phil, calls me and asks me if I could come over. I say, yeah sure, I'll be over after work, and I assumed he just needed help with some DIY stuff they're doing. When I get over there he calls me Sport and says we need to talk. I should mention this is something he does to me and my little brother, calling us things like kid, sport, scout, little buddy, or my personal favourite, calling us red and blue, seemingly out of nowhere. My brother is 30, by the way. He tried it with my little sister, 28, too, once, and called her princess once, but he stopped when she just stared at him. So the thing with Paul is that he reminds me a lot of Charlie Day's character in Horrible Bosses, in that his sole ambition has always been to meet a girl, get married, and have a family. When he told me and my brother this, my brother made some joke about how maybe our mum's going to come short on the last part, and he got very upset, but they made up after. Anyway, so I go around and I ask if my mum's around, and he says no, it's just him, and that we really need to talk man to man. I say sure, and he starts talking about how he's always wanted to be a father, etc., and raise a son to call his own. And then he drops this bombshell by saying, "Now, I know I can never replace your father, the man who made you, but it would mean the world to me if you could call me Dad." I'll admit it, I sniggered a little, and then I knew he was serious because he looked like he was about to cry, and he didn't drop it either. I asked if he really meant it, and he got really emotional and started talking about what it means to be a man, and how his purpose is to have and provide for a family, and he wants me and my siblings to be part of that family. Like he reiterated, he'll never replace my father, and this did rub me the wrong way a bit, but he's ready to step up and be my dad, and provide for and protect me and my siblings. And I'm just sat there thinking, dude, I'm a decade older than you and live in a separate house. I don't need providing for, and even if I did, I don't think a guy a third of my age who works part-time at the hardware store and is into collecting manga is the man to do it. No offense if you're into that, lol, just, I don't know, I was a bit taken aback. I was in shock, so I just said, okay, and he gets emotional again, but in a happy way, talking about how he wants to go camping or go to a baseball game. I don't even like baseball, and how he joined the Lions this year and how he wants to bring me into it too as his boy, which just feels so surreal, even more so as I'm a Shriner, so all this talk of service and charity isn't the brag he thinks it is, because again, I'm 10 years older than this guy. Well, I ended it by just saying, this has gotten a bit too weird, and I was going home. He got very upset, and I left, called my brother, and he agreed it sounds weird as frick. Later, my mum called me, and she wasn't disappointed, but admitted it's made him very upset and depressed. I told her that if he's embarrassed, he doesn't need to be. I get he's excited about the marriage, and we can just laugh this off as a funny story. She then said that wasn't what he was upset about. He, and she too a bit, is upset about the fact he, quote, poured his heart out and I rejected him. She said, yeah, it's a bit kooky, but this is how he proves to himself he's a man. And I guess I was a bit angry and said something like, first off, it's not my job to certify what's between his legs, and second, this doesn't prove he's a man, it just proves he's a nut job. I apologized immediately, but she said she didn't want to hear it and hung up. She called back 10 minutes later, and we apologized, and she begged me to just go along with it until he has some kids to call his own. I won't go too much into the details here, but she sort of just let slip that they plan to try IVF treatment because she's not ready to give up on being a mum just yet. And while I have my own thoughts about whether or not that's a good idea, I'm not here to litigate on that. We finished up fine, and I reiterated I'd support her, and she agreed that it was definitely a stressful situation for me, but begged me to at least think about it. Which leads me to here. I did think it over, and obviously I'm going to say no. I had a dad and he died. Rest in peace, Dad. And that's the only dad I've ever needed, I've ever wanted, and I'll ever bestow that title on. I'm not asking if someone's unreasonable or what I should do, more so what I should say. This clearly means a lot to him for some reason, and I deeply love my mum, so I want to try and minimize the damage, especially as we're still so involved in each other's lives and they live behind me. How can I make it clear to them, as painlessly as possible, that I think this is weird and borderline offensive? I really don't want to rip the band-aid off because I fear what it might do to the family. Edit. Showed my brother the post and he laughed so hard he started coughing, lol, then said we should call him Dr. Phil, and each other Blue and Red, so swap the nicknames he gave us around. Thoughts? In Edit 2, as people were asking, he has no access to my mum's money or anything like that. She rents the house and it came pre-furnished and otherwise has no real assets. She doesn't make a lot of money anyway, so there's no pecuniary motive we could think of. What? This is bizarre. I mean, age gap and all of that obvious stuff aside, I think it's clear that this guy's got some serious issues if he's asking someone who's 10 years older than him to call him dad. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, bizarre. Let's go to the comments. I wonder if he grew up without a dad. He's giving a weird 1950s energy to the whole thing that feels like he only knows about dads from seeing them on the telly. Opie says, "Oh no, his dad's still alive. Both his parents are. I've met them. They definitely feel odd about the whole situation, but go along with it for his sake." "Could you compromise and call him Pa or something?" "The thing is, it became apparent it's more than just a name to him. He explicitly wants to do father-son activities with me and my brother with him as the dad, despite the fact we're both older than him. If it's so important to his personal identity to find a girl, have kids with her, and raise them as their dad, it seems like marrying a 58-year-old woman with adult children significantly older than himself is a pretty ineffective way to achieve those life goals. If it's so important to him, he should find someone his own age and make that happen the normal way. It's not your responsibility to make your mum's boy toy feel like a man. You're closer to being his much older brother than his son. Weird." Opie replies, "Me and my siblings all think he has issues talking to girls his own age, and so it led to this. I also get you're supporting your mum, but maybe question her having a kid at 58. Like, does she plan to be around for graduation, marriages, grandkids? Sounds like your mum is having some empty nest issues and is illogically trying to start over. If she got pregnant today, she would be 77 years old when her kid graduated. Considering she hasn't even started trying yet, that means she'll be in her 80s when the kid graduates. That isn't realistic. Also, I have a 5 and 7-year-old and I'm only 38 years old and already feel tired all the time. I can't imagine what a 58-year-old would feel like." Opie says, "Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I don't actually see this ever going ahead, hence why I'm happy to say, yeah, of course I'll support you, because I guess I just can't imagine, push come to shove, her actually getting the treatment greenlit. I did raise the age stuff and she just said, people live a lot longer these days." I don't know what his end game is here, if it's a mental health problem or he's trying to create some legal precedent that he intends to exploit later, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to explain, defend, or justify this decision. Opie says, "The end game? I genuinely think he wants to start a family, or at least pretend he's the dad of one. Ever since we met him, it's all he'd ever really go on about, and how he needs to be a dad to become a man. Very early on, he asked me if I ever planned to have kids, and I said no, and he got quite taken aback, like a mixture of offense and confusion, and sort of seemed to imply I'm either gay, I am, but shh, or trans because I don't want to be a man then. Hope it works out in the long run, but I was laughing so hard by the end. Such a crazy situation. I think you should talk with your mum and maybe hang out with her fiancé, but as bros, not some weird dad situation." Opie replies, "I have offered this, but every time me and my brother do, he definitely tries to act like the man of the group, or sets us up for more explicit father-son activities, or just talks about how desperate he is to become a father. A personal favourite was a time when he got his phone out and started reading some pearls of wisdom he'd obviously found online." Someone says he's probably low self-esteem. Yeah, I want to be gentle because I do think he has that warped self-esteem and a lot of other issues. Definitely not all with it. I do know his parents and they're totally normal, nice people who go along with this for his sake. He's mentioned internet friends and friends from a D&D group, but I've never met them. Me and my siblings have tried talking with his parents, but from the way they've come across, they really don't want to get involved any more than they have to, unfortunately. But thank you. Hopefully the conclusion of this will be gentle." Opie updates 4 days later. Original post and slightly amended the title for clarity. Anyway, so I told both my siblings and we agreed we'd collectively put our foot down with Phil at our next family dinner next week, especially after an incident where Phil referred to my brother as Sport and asked if he wanted to go see a baseball game with him. Admittedly, I was a bit spurred on by what you all said and got involved, pinging him back with, "Oh, no tickets for me, Daddy." And my brother responded with, "Daddy wants me all to himself, Hot." And Phil took a few minutes to respond before saying he was shocked, speechless, and disgusted. He then messaged me in private to say he was utterly appalled and that he'd never disrespect his own father the way you boys did. I kind of lost it at this point and said, "Right, that's because you're not my father, Phil. You're a 24-year-old man-child dating my mother. You have no right to my respect, especially not to the respect a father gets." I immediately said sorry, but then blocked his number and left the group chat. Apparently he sent a similar thing to my brother, who responded with more daddy stuff, and Phil blocked him. Well, that aside, I don't think that the family dinner is going ahead. After the original post blew up, it seems someone from his Lions Club found it and reported it to their chair or whatever, and Phil has either been expelled or resigned or in the process of one of the two. He has removed nearly all mentions of the Lions from his social media and no longer mentions being a member, with his last post on it being some cryptic goodbye post where he kind of drones on about what it means to be a man in the modern day and the duty of fatherhood bestowed on all men at birth. Really weird crap. My mum called me half in a panic, half in a rage after, about the stuff I'd been telling about him before breaking down and saying we need to meet, which we did, and got my brother to go over too. I know he's temporarily moved back in with his parents in the next town over, but from my understanding they still want to go ahead with the wedding, but I think that's more so because they've already spent money on it. When she said she was determined to have more kids, plural, my brother did step up and asked if she really thought that was a good idea at her age, and I pointed out that assuming she had the baby next year and she lived to 80, they still wouldn't have finished college. She just stammered on about how people live longer these days, before breaking down and crying and admitting she's not ready to give up on mothering due to some deep-seated trauma and fears about the family breaking apart that I won't go into for her sake. When we reassured her that we weren't going anywhere, she calmed down and we had a very good, honest conversation where she's agreed to drop the IVF stuff on the grounds that it'd be too expensive and unlikely to get greenlit, but she's still adamant it's scientifically possible and she should be allowed to do it from an ethical standpoint because she has to win that argument, and has agreed to look into fostering instead. Me and my brother highly doubt anything will ever come of that, so we're not worried anymore. The very good news is she's also agreed to look into therapy and psychiatric help to deal with her trauma, and we've helped get her in touch with a nice lady in town to unpack all of this in a more healthy way, so at least one person is getting the help they need. I have no idea what's happened to Phil or what's going to happen with him, but I did make it clear to my mum that he is not my dad. He's not even my stepdad. I'm not a kid, and he's never going to be either one outside of legal frickery. She relented pretty quickly. I think she's finally broken out of her shell at least, and we've agreed that if things go ahead, that's going to be a huge red line, though I don't know if he'll want to be friends with me after all of this anyway. Anyway, thanks for the help on the original post, y'all. And Opie edits the next day. Bit of an update as I can't respond to everyone, but I think the marriage is off. Phil has gone AWOL again and has had a huge argument with his family as they've demanded he call off the wedding and date people his own age. This apparently made him snap. Me and my mum have met his mum and older brother, who said Phil is very insecure around girls his own age and has never been able to talk to them, hence his preference. This very deeply upset my mum, and after some begging from all of us, she agreed to push the wedding back, though she wants to keep dating him. I have no idea where Phil is, though his brother assumes he's couch surfing with his D&D friends, who has been sending me and my brother some not nice messages because clearly we're just jealous of the MILF hunter. If any of you socially inept freaks are reading this, I don't need to chase middle-aged folk because I can talk to boys my own age like a normal person. Peace. Whew, mic drop. Let's go to some final comments. There's delusion, and then there's this. Dude is not mentally well if he's trying to get people a decade older than him to see him as a father figure. Opie stayed polite far longer than I would have. I'd have laughed and told him to respect his elders, then given him advice on things like shaving and how to tie a tie. I'm 56 and my older kid is 24, and all I can say is ew, ew, ew. Yeah, there's not enough people reacting to that part. Everyone just rolling over this old woman dating a neurodivergent kid. It's frickin' gross. Mum apparently has a type, young and delusional. Anyone else connecting the I want more children because mine have grown up and might leave me, and I'm marrying a man a decade younger than my kids, and feeling a bit ill? I'm kinda sad that Opie and his brother didn't at least go on one outing with Phil while wearing shorts and propeller hats and acting like 8-year-olds in public to see if Phil could wrangle them, and constantly and very loudly calling him daddy. That's a pretty funny sight, and honestly that was a pretty funny post. I know I shouldn't be laughing at other people's misgivings, but my god, it all sounds like something out of a sketch show. Hey, there's an idea. Anyway guys, what are your thoughts about that one? Plenty to say, I'm sure. Let me know down below. Otherwise, we're going to move on again. Okay, we're on relationships. This one was written by user Klutzy Crab, and it's titled, My boyfriend and I have too much sex and I can't handle it anymore. How do I explain it to him that it exhausts me, and how do I negotiate new intimacy with him? My boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years now. He is my first relationship and even my first kiss. We met during university during activities, became friends, and then started dating. He is so polite and kind and also really sweet and smart as well. We can talk about our common interests and hobbies for hours on end. Since I was a virgin in the relationship, he was not, we took it slow and only had sex when I was ready, which was about 8 months after we became a couple. After that, we had sex about once every 1 or 2 weeks, depending on if we found the time during our studies and if we were exhausted. Sometimes during exam time, we had it once a month or every 5 weeks. But slowly, he started to initiate more and more. At first, I didn't mind and loved the attention he was giving me. I felt attractive and beautiful, which helped my body image issues a lot. Soon, it turned into him asking for it every single day, sometimes twice a day during weekends, or if we have a slow day with little work and studies. A month ago, we went on a vacation together, and he basically jumped on me as soon as we got into our hotel room. We barely got to do anything as he wanted to have sex 2, if not 3 times a day. I came back so exhausted from the vacation. I even started saying no to him eating me out, or roleplay or switching in position, just to get it over with sooner. At this point, sex does nothing for me anymore. The mere action and physical stimulation feels enjoyable, yes, but just sex without anything else just isn't worth the time or effort for me. I need a story and emotion with it, lots of dirty talk and role-playing some hot situations. I know that takes time and effort to prepare, but it gets me going wildly. But even if I could have that every day, I wouldn't want it. It's literally physically too exhausting. Also, I feel like too much sex kinda destroys the magic. I know that he takes a lot emotionally and sexually out of sex. It's making him feel loved and desired, and I don't want to take it from him, but I actually caught myself not doing any makeup anymore and not wearing tight or short clothing but baggy ones instead to maybe deter him from wanting sex so much. Yeah, before anything else, there needs to be a big conversation about it, I think. Let's go to the comments. You need to say no to him and then deal with whatever comes up together. Stop running away from what you imagine he might feel, unloved, rejected, sad, angry, and face it together. If he believes he needs sex to feel connected to you, he needs to learn to use his words. He's not going to learn that if you keep avoiding a conversation about how you don't feel able to say no to him. Hope replies, I'm still new to navigating romantic relationships and I don't want to reject him. He always respects me and I never felt like he did anything without my consent. It's just that this consent seems to exhaust me a lot. I definitely plan on having an honest discussion with him, but I'm also aware that I could profit from help with navigating a negotiation of intimacy. I thought about proposing a schedule thing, combining having sex with date nights while also creating date nights with no expectation of sex. When sharing your wants and needs on a difficult conversation, it's important to keep the focus on yourself. Avoid you statements with any negative criticism and highlight what you're feeling and struggling with. For example, in the beginning, when we had frequent sex, I felt attractive and desired, which helped my body image. However, I'm now getting exhausted from having sex too frequently. I am struggling with the frequency of sex because I'm wanting more romance and emotional connection during sex. I realize I'm wanting more quality than quantity during sex. I find myself avoiding the things I enjoy in sex because of the exhaustion, and this leads to me wanting to have even less sex overall. I would love to have a conversation with you about my sexual wants and needs. I want to keep making you feel loved and desired without having to sacrifice my own wants and needs to be loved and desired. Would you be willing to have this conversation with me to figure things out? If you're looking for more support, feel free to reach out. I'm a relationship coach that supports couples to connect more deeply so that they feel more joy in each other's presence. Yeah, it's clear Opie needs to speak up at some point here. Okay, let's go to an update. I spent a lot of time reading through everyone's replies and looking inwards about how I feel. I gathered my thoughts and spent a few days making a list of what I wanted to say when we have the big conversation. On a weekend, when we had planned to spend the day together, I sat him down and told him the following points. I love him to the moon and back and want to show him that I love him, make him feel desired, loved, and appreciated. But having so much sex with such frequency is physically exhausting to me, which causes me to avoid sex and even sex acts I enjoy because I don't have enough energy and motivation to do it. This also causes me to orgasm not as often anymore. I also need time to physically recover before it may even start to become painful. I feel like sex has become the single defining aspect of our relationship, and many other parts like doing activities together, romantic dates, just talking and cuddling have taken a back seat. I also feel exhausted emotionally and underappreciated from giving as much as I can, which I gladly do for the people I love, while little comes back from the other side of the relationship. I then proceeded to explain the things I like during sex and what makes me go wild, hoping to show him that I still want to have sex with him. I also made a few more compliments just to keep the vibe positive and because I meant it. He reacted pretty well, all things considered. He listened and let me finish, but asked for a little time to think about it. Obviously, I gladly agreed. We spent the rest of the day together without him initiating once. At the end of the day, he said that he wants me to enjoy sex just as much as he does and that he loves me. I was really hopeful for the next week and a half. We spent our time together like usual, and he asked for sex about 1/2 as often as before our talk. We even had days without sex at all. He also started to ask, "Do you want to have sex with me?" instead of physically initiating like he did before, like touching me somewhere, hugging me from behind, and similar things. He also stopped asking for pictures of me, and when he did it, it was just selfies. I was so happy that I even took the initiative once, and he seemingly loved it when I asked for sex. Then, one day, he sat me down with a stern look and said that he hated what this relationship has turned into. To him, it feels like we're now just roommates or platonic friends instead of lovers. He told me that the one time I initiated, after he was overjoyed to finally bang me again, his heart was broken because I suddenly wasn't as submissive as usual. I asked to be eaten out and was on top with some more dominant dirty talk, and that all of that is not what he signed up for. He doesn't want to walk on eggshells waiting for when I'm finally in the mood, but have what he deserves in the relationship. Basically, he gave me an ultimatum. Either we return to how it was before the talk starting right now, or he leaves me. Guess who doesn't have a boyfriend anymore? I spent the last few days bawling my eyes out and eating lots of ice cream and watching some crappy shows. What he said hurt me a lot, and I do not love him anymore, but still the feeling of loss and sadness is all too real. He was my first relationship, and for the past 2 years, he was my entire world. Now I have to gather up the broken shards he left behind. Wow, how selfish is this guy? It's all just me, me, me. Honestly, I think it's for the best that they broke up. Let's read some final comments. Hey little sister, a big, big internet hug to you. It's hard and it's going to hurt for a while, but you're going to be okay. You did a fantastic job standing up for yourself, and you'll look back on that moment and be proud of yourself. I didn't originally read your first post, but even though I'm just catching up now, I'm so glad you went with that. Hugs and strength to you. Rock on, you're going to be fantastic. Opie replies, "Thank you so much. Your words are really soothing and calming, as much as I can be soothed and calmed right now. The hug is really appreciated, big sister. I normally avoid conflict or mediate such, so standing my ground really was difficult, but I also feel freed of all the burden of trying to save the relationship or my sanity." Homeboy is in for a shock when he realizes it will be impossible to find someone to have sex with him multiple times a day, every day. You sound like such a sweet person, and he treated you like his portable handy vagina. Good riddance. Opie says, "Thank you for the compliment, and you perfectly describe how dirty he made me feel. Like while he was shouting at me and demanded I apologize, he talked about going back to normal right now. I can only assume he wanted me to let him bang me right then and there." This dude wanted a sex doll. You're better off without him. Yeesh, I'm sorry, but I'm so glad you stood up for yourself, because the way he reacted exposed even more red flags. Do not take him back if he asks. He may try to manipulate you with the breakup so that you're more submissive next time. Opie says, "I won't take him back. Promise." I felt so blindsided by his reaction. Oh, he'll definitely get what he deserves, but I don't think he'll like it very much, unless he has a very submissive hand, of course. I'm sorry it ended like that. I promise there are better men out there. Opie says, that hand comment made me laugh. Not many things have accomplished that the past few days. Thank you, kind stranger. Your feelings are valid, but know that the biggest loss is his. He sounds like the type of person who stops seeing their partner as a human and starts seeing them as a possession. A guy that absolutely needs submission from their partner is likely controlling and would have hurt you in other ways later on. Take this time to love yourself again, and you'll meet people in the future who honor and respect you the way you deserve. Here. Alright guys, we're going to leave that one there. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Either way, that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.